Welcome to the Lake Show podcast presented by Jack in the Box. It's a weekly deep dive into the biggest stories and topics surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm Allie Clifton, joined by our Laker insider, Mike Bresnahan. And Brez, you and I have a very special guest, Hall of Fame sports photographer. He is the host of Legend of Sport podcast. Just finished his 6th season, 200 episodes from one podcast host to the next. That is no small feat. So congratulations. Our very dear friend, Andy Bernstein, joins us.
Hi, Andy.
So
Andy.
great to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, he came bearing gifts. 'Tis the holiday season as well. Gifted me this book, the Kobe Bryant
That's really cool.
book, the Mamba Mentality.
Allie,
Yeah,
was it autographed too?
it is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's pretty
By
much
Andy himself.
The
That
5th year
is-
anniversary of that book being released in 2018.
That's
So,
really cool.
yeah.
To Allie, the Mamba's legacy lives on in us all. Best always, Andy Bernstein. You're amazing.
And it's hard.
So cool.
It's hard to qualify. Like you've come across so many athletes in your how many years now?
This is year 43, believe it or not. Yeah.
43. That's like
43.
that's like 15 years older than Allie. I mean, it's really amazing.
Hey now.
But I mean, you've come across so many athletes, mostly Lakers, right?
Right.
Is there anyone that stands out more than Kobe as far as guys that you've shot over the years? And I don't want you to, if you feel uncomfortable singling out someone, I
Yeah.
understand. But I feel like so many of your photos over the years, so much of your, you shot him all 20 years of his Laker career.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of what you've done, that's almost half your career. It was Kobe-centric.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was very incredibly fortunate to be around him for all 20 years from beginning to end. I mean, Magic, too. My rookie year essentially was Magic's second year.
Wow.
So I almost shot all of Magic's Laker career, NBA career. James Worthy, I shot all of James's career, which was great. And
That's a
then,
career.
if we go outside the Laker family, Michael Jordan, I was there for his entire career as well. And the big fella, Shaq was a great subject, great person, to be around, but always, made for great pictures in Orlando. And then, of course, when he came here to the Lakers. Yeah.
That is. Did you get, first of all, really quick, because Big Game was in here last night. He came back after the game.
Uh-huh.
Did you get a shot of him and the dude, Brody the dude? Were you there last night?
No, I wasn't at the game.
Oh, you weren't
last
at the
night.
game last
No.
night? Did you see the dog courtside?
I did see the dog. So there was literally a dog sitting courtside.
Yes.
in like a Laker jersey.
Yes.
Okay, because I kind of was.
Yeah, you're not
going back
crazy.
and
A
forth.
massive dog.
What was up with that?
Because I even asked Big Game, and it's funny because I asked Big Game and Rob in the postgame show in a commercial break. I'm like, in all of your years playing, what would you have done if there was a dog courtside? Look.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, I've never seen a dog courtside.
I'm shocked that the arena allowed that to happen, but I guess was a service dog. I mean,
It's an Instagram. It's an influencing dog.
Oh
4.9 million followers on YouTube.
really.
1 million on Instagram.
And
Only
you
in
don't see
LA
this in
would-
Charlotte.
Only in LA. Touche.
Yeah, this is not Milwaukee material.
That
This
is incredible.
Yeah, that's,
Wow. Well, I hope the doggy was well behaved because you never know what could happen.
Right? Having said that, I do want to go back to kind of the very beginning of it all. Brez just asked, you're not from California, you're not
Nope.
from Los Angeles.
Nope.
From
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. So how does one like yourself get into photography to begin
Well,
with?
I was raised in a very sports-centric household. My family were all Brooklyn fans of every kind, mostly Dodgers, of course. So when I was born in '58, it was the year the Dodgers moved to L.A. And so I had to become a Mets fan because being a Yankee fan was completely out of the question in my house. So I was raised a Mets fan and a Rangers fan. I was not really an NBA fan. I went to a couple of Knicks games. Of course, we all played, hoops in the driveway and at the schoolyard and all that. But I was the shortest kid on the block, so I stuck to street hockey mostly,
Wow.
and stickball. And I ended up going to University of Massachusetts, where I kind of honed my skills. I knew I wanted to be a photographer of some kind. But when I was 14, my dad gave me a camera, and kind of that started the ball rolling. But at UMass, I was able to work for our daily newspaper, which was a big college. We had a daily paper, covered a lot of stuff. And I just kept loving the sports stuff that I got to shoot. The news was fine, and feature stuff and portraits or whatever, but the sports, being able to, with your camera, get the best access, on the football field, the basketball court, wherever it was. So I got about halfway through UMass, and I decided I had to up my game. I wasn't really learning enough science, business of photography, all that. So I made a big leap of faith. I transferred to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena.
Wow.
It was a huge move at 19 to do that. And from day one, they told me I was in the wrong place, but because it was a commercial arts school, basically. But they had a great photography program, and I got what I could out of it. But through a couple of teachers that believed in me, and it's a real testament to mentorship, because these gentlemen are still in my life, almost 50 years later. I was introduced to some photographers from Sports Illustrated, and I started assisting them, going to the Forum, going to the sports arena, lighting hockey, basketball, going to Pauley Pavilion. I mean, I think that was my first assignment, was putting strobe lights in Pauley Pavilion. And that was a very specialized technique, which I sort of saw as a niche at that time. I saw it as kind of my way in to this crazy competitive business.
If you don't mind me asking really quick, what does that mean, strobe lights?
So when you're in the arena, sometimes you see these flashes go off. Most people don't pay attention to it because you think it's fans in the stands taking flash pictures. It's actually these big strobes, these big giant flashes that are in the catwalk at Crypto.com Arena or any arena you go to.
Okay.
And you'll see it more prevalently when you see a replay.
Okay.
And you'll see these flashes go off. That is a system of flashes that supplement or augment the actual existing light in the arena. So so it's like if you had 200 little flashes attached to your camera when you push the button.
Yeah.
That's the amount of light that's coming out of these. Yeah. So that was a very specialized technique. It still pretty much is, but there weren't that many people back then who knew how to do that. And I was just in the right place at the right time, really, because I was able to sort of get access to shoot Lakers and Kings games through Jeannie and Lon Rosen and people I became very good friends with at the Forum at the time. And then the NBA, all of a sudden, they're having their All-Star game in the Forum in '83, and that was my big break. So I got hired to do that. I went back to New York, and they hadn't even thought about hiring somebody at the NBA office for the All-Star game. And they said, well, you're local. We don't have to fly you anywhere. We don't have to feed you or house you. So sure, we'll hire you. And that's really how it started. And the following year in '84, I became the Dodgers team photographer, and my career just kept kind of moving forward.
That's a hell of a resume right there. That's amazing. When you look at what are your top maybe 3 to 5 pictures ever? I'm asking you to say, it's hard to narrow it down, but what are some of the ones where you're like, I was in the right spot, right time? Obviously you've got an immense skill level behind the lens too, but there's got to be some that you're like, that's a great one.
Well, if we're talking non-basketball for a minute.
Okay.
Sure.
I was actually there when Kirk Gibson hit his home run.
Okay.
In the '88 World Series. That was pretty unbelievable. Man, there's so many. I mean, Derek Fisher's, 0.4 shot in San Antonio. How many Kobe game winners were there? Michael Jordan holding the trophy in '91 when they beat the Lakers, in
that was
the finals. That was
That's
mine.
you?
Wow.
Yeah. Kobe ensconced in ice. It's in that book actually in 2010. So many opportunities with Pat Riley and Phil Jackson and the Showtime guys. Magic and Bird intertwined. That's one of my top 3 favorites. I think I'm known for.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
And how do you be a good photographer? It's a very open-ended question, but is it more? You have to be aggressive and assertive, or is it more low key? Hey, I'll photograph you. It's like what's your personality and what has worked for you as a photographer?
Well, you've known me a long time, so you've kind of seen me in action, and in your job as well, right? In your previous incarnation, like you have to kind of know how to use your elbows once in a while,
sure,
and kind of be the guy that's out there out front. I'm very fortunate that I work primarily for the league. I mean, the league hires me and kind of rents me out to the Lakers, Clippers, and whatever team happens to be in front of my lens that night.
You prefer Lakers games, obviously.
Well, I probably shot more Laker games in my career, than anybody else, any other team. But I just pride myself on my professionalism, my integrity, being respectful of the other photographers and videographers. If you think about even the in-season tournament, for example, a couple of weeks ago, there was a big scrum at the end. Everybody's trying to get the shot of the guys celebrating before they got the trophy, and once they got the trophy, and we all have to work together. If I'm blocking a TV guy, maybe next time he's going to block me. So, and we all know each other, and there's a lot of professional respect. I still know I have to get the shot. And
that's where the elbows come in sometimes.
And that's when the elbows come in a little bit. Yeah, you have to sharpen them up a little bit, but yeah.
Allie, I've got to tell you, Kobe, who I covered for 12 years at the LA Times, notoriously private, very private guy, not a guy who goes out with a big group
right.
and that type of thing, just a very private guy. Even on the road, he'd go out with maybe one teammate. I always would see him with like a Ronnie Turioff or our friend Karan Butler, but never with like more than one teammate. He was a very private guy.
Yeah.
And yet, Allie, you have to understand Andy's, just his overall, his way of working. Because there's so many times I would be in the Laker locker room, and I'd be waiting for Kobe to come out of the training room after a game for a post-game interview, and guess who would come out with him? Andy would be in the training room, which would the trainer's room is like the off-limits room of all off-limits rooms. That's a testimony to your character that you got that behind-the-scenes access. And it's pretty cool to have done that. It's hard to do too, Allie, for sure.
I was going to say, looking in this book, there's one with you in the doctor's office.
Yeah. Well, that's when he blew the Achilles, and I actually went to the doctor's office when he got the stitches out, and I wanted to kind of document that entire process, and how determined he was to come back strong.
Right here it was.
Yeah. But, Brez, I have to give a shout out in that example to our friend, the great Gary Vitti, because, the inner sanctum, like you said, is the training room. I mean, the inner sanctum is the locker room. The inner sanctum is the training room. Nobody goes in the training room. That was Gary's domain, and as well as every head trainer in the NBA. Gary and I got along great from the beginning. I remember when I first met Gary, I probably didn't even have a camera. We just started to hit it off, kind of the same kind of guys. We talked about our dads, and we had a lot in common. And Gary always trusted me. He always knew that I had a sixth sense of when not to be in there or when to get out. Usually when I kind of saw Phil in my peripheral vision kind of heading towards the training room, I knew it was time to get out, But Phil also and Pat Riley, I mean, they didn't have to give me that access. I earned that access, and then I had to learn how to keep that access going. You don't get a chance at a second chance, really, in our world. Once you blow that sort of trust and loyalty, it's over. Yeah.
You mentioned, so 43 years as senior photographer for the NBA. So you've obviously covered more than 4 decades with this sport, which the sport in itself has changed. The guys and just the way they go about their business has changed. Yeah. I mean, now every time you walk in, I, for one, look forward to these photos, right? That you guys are taking, the tunnel, the fits, etc. How much fun has that, I guess, been able to, for you, how much fun has that to be a part of, to kind of see the evolution, the change? How important is it for you to get shots like that? Are you more so on the court? How are you thinking going into a game night? I always just find it very interesting because you guys are always moving. You're on the go at all times. You're underneath to get the right shots, pressure. Like, what is that for a game?
Well, it's so great you asked that because this is coming on the heels of I just spent 2 games in San Antonio. The Lakers were there, and the NBA sent me down there because here you got this 19-year-old kid, Wembanyama, who wasn't even alive when LeBron started to play in the NBA. I mean, it just blows your mind, right?
Right.
And to get LeBron and this guy Wembanyama in the court at the same time and try to make a picture out of it. Was a tremendous challenge, but it was like, as Phil Jackson would say, it's like a full circle event for me. It's like I'm able to, I covered LeBron's entire career. I covered his first game that he played in Sacramento when he was with Cleveland. Now he's in year 21. He's obviously got a lot of gas left in the tank, but here's the next generation, like right in front of us. This is the future of the NBA, is this guy. And I'd never seen a guy with those skills at that size ever, I mean, he's like a mix between, I don't know, Kevin Durant and Ralph Sampson, and can handle the ball a little bit like, Steph Curry between the legs.
And
could shoot 3-pointers.
Crazy.
I mean, his first points in the NBA was a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
So that's exciting for me. I came in at the end of basically the Dr. J Kareem era.
Okay.
And then, of course, it was Showtime, and then, the Bulls and Michael era, bleeding into sort of Shaq and Kobe, and Kobe by himself, and then, LeBron, Steph, and all those guys, and now I guess it's the Wemby era. I don't know. It can't be an era yet because we're only like 2 months in.
Yeah.
But
the Wemby month.
But it's just incredible to see, and then think about the evolution of that position.
Yeah.
Kareem had this great quote where, like, he wasn't ever allowed to bring the ball up the court. He couldn't touch the ball anywhere except in the paint.
Yeah.
And here's the guy bringing the ball up, going between the legs, shooting threes at 7'5". I mean, it's crazy.
Did you leave the game that night getting the shot that you wanted?
I actually did.
You did?
Yeah, I got that shot in the corner where LeBron shot that rainbow over him.
Oh, yeah.
And from my vantage point, it was pretty cool because I was in the opposite corner on that side, so I got like the full extension.
Wow.
But this guy
Nice.
can block shots outside the paint and block guys going to the basket. He's got an 8-foot wingspan.
That's incredible.
And it's fun for me to learn another guy's game. Like, it took me years to learn Magic's game. I mean, I was always guessing and usually guessed wrong because Magic could do like 19 things in a second, and I get one shot to get it. And then, of course, Steph,
It's a lot of pressure.
You guys make
everything.
it look so easy.
Right?
Yeah, it's not. And like I said, with that strobe system, you only get one shot at a picture. It's not a motor drive situation where you can bang off 10, 12 frames in a second. I get one picture because the strobes have to flash and then they have to recycle back up. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Andy, you had that iconic LeBron dunk.
Yeah.
Iconic. I think I spoke it. I think I said it correctly. Be nice if I could speak today, Allie. You had that dunk shot. Did you know right away that you got something special?
Absolutely not.
Really?
So that
and there it is right there. And when do you know? Like, do you know when they go back down? Do you check your camera right away, or do you have to stay on until the ball is dead?
Well,
are you in the play, by the way?
I'm actually in this picture. So if you look at the opposite basket, I mean, we'd have to blow this up, but on the opposite basket to the left as we're looking at it, I'm the second guy after the TV cameraman.
Wait a second. You're not underneath?
I'm underneath the opposite basket. So all my remote cameras, we do 6 remote cameras, which are cameras that are placed in strategic positions
Blowing
on
Allie's
that
mind right
end
now.
of the court, right? And then I fire them with a remote button, right, that is attached to my camera. So in a millisecond, I have to decide, am I going to shoot with the camera in my hand, or am I going to shoot with this remote button to get the remotes to shoot that photo? And usually when the guy is going towards the basket and they're in sort of that restricted area, I usually hit the remotes because otherwise I'm going to get their back. So the remotes, there's 6 cameras getting that instant, that moment in time, but that was the angle that actually worked.
Allie's mouth has been open for like 2 minutes.
Did you know that he was at the other end of the court?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's how I do it. So, on a tip, and this is a testament to preparation, which I learned from many people who came before me, most notably like Walter Yost. This whole process starts at noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon when my 2 assistants get there and they're setting up these cameras and they get everything ready, and I roll in 3, 4 o'clock, and we get everything fine-tuned so that everything is ready to go once you guys come out to warm up for the game. That particular angle I'm super proud of because I actually invented that angle. So if you look at that picture, it's completely symmetrical. The camera's on the floor, but where is the camera when you look at that?
It's the Andy angle.
No, the camera is buried in a hole at the bottom of the basket stanchion. So next time we're at the arena, I'll show you.
Oh, I'm going to, please.
Yeah. So through a whole set of circumstances, I talked Lee Zeidman back in the day into letting me cut a hole into the pad of the stanchion.
Smart.
He's like the Staples Center landlord for our listeners.
He thought I was nuts, but he let me do it, and then it worked, and we were able to get that passed through the NBA, and it's become now a standard in every arena.
Oh, that's awesome.
Obviously, LeBron loved that shot.
Yeah.
What does it mean when you get guys, athletes, obviously complimenting your work? Or
it's very rare that anybody will ever mention me by name, quite frankly. I mean, he did the next day when somebody asked him.
Yeah.
That photo was eerily reminiscent of the same dunk that Kobe did.
Yeah.
I personally don't think in that second, that millisecond of time that he actually thought, I'm going to do the same exact dunk that I saw Kobe do. But, all the stars aligned, and it actually was the same dunk on the same basket on that end of the court. It was really bizarre.
Wow.
It was only, 2-3 weeks after Kobe passed that he did that. So there was a big buzz about all that, and the media asked him, and he actually mentioned me, which was cool. It was very cool. I mean, like I said, I rarely, maybe a handful of times, a guy has actually mentioned my name in public, like, oh yeah, I know Andy shot that.
It's so cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process is amazing. And you were at the Laker championship in 2020 in the bubble.
Right.
Bizarre circumstances, obviously.
Yeah.
The even the clearance to get on the court.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the process like? And was it, you were there for the whole 2 months?
I was there 53 days. So
Okay.
I got there on August 27th through the championship. It's something I never want to have to live through again.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It was very strange to be in a place where you can't leave. Like if you leave, you can't go back. But it was bizarre. And the first 7 days you spent in quarantine in a 10 by 12 hotel room in the middle of Florida during COVID.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. At that point, I hadn't worked since March, so it was like, okay, it'd be nice to work again.
Oh yeah.
We were getting a little worried as a family, like when's Dad going back to work? But it was amazing, and I honestly, I hear people talk all the time. Well, it wasn't a real championship, and blah blah. You know what? It was more than a real championship, I think, because what those guys had to endure. The Lakers were there like over 100 days, I think.
Yeah. I think 95, close to 100. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the quality of
you had
play
to finish
across
the season.
What's that?
You had to finish the regular season.
They
That
had to
took a couple
finish the
weeks.
regular season. That's
Yeah.
right. But the quality of play across the board, I was totally impressed with every team that was in the bubble, and it was very restrictive for us covering. Like
I was just going to ask,
we weren't
any
allowed
restrictions?
on the court, on the physical court. We had to shoot. I shoot under the basket. We had to be off the court, like 12 feet off
Wow.
the court. If we had to deal with anything on the court with the cameras, had to be done when the players weren't on the court. Everything had to be sanitized. It was a bizarre lifestyle, but a lot of us, we all survived it. We all have stories to tell about it. I think we'll probably have a reunion at some point, So it was fun.
Not you have to sit in a 10 by 12 for a week.
Hopefully not.
To go to that
I'll
reunion.
get a bigger room than that. Yeah.
So you mentioned 83 was your first big break.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned to me before we came in here, you covered the 85 Showtime Championship.
Right.
Was that your first one?
No, because I covered when did Philly beat the Lakers? 83?
83.
Oh, so you did it that year too.
So that was my first championship that I covered. And it was
Okay.
my first really kind of big photo was Dr. J, true story. Dr. J holding the championship trophy in the tiny little men's room in the visitors' locker room in front of a urinal. Is
Wow.
like my claim to fame at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes a good urinal shot it'll launch your career.
Right. And
Do you have that one framed at home?
I did talk to Doc about it. I saw him at the in-season tournament, and he laughed and he says, "Yeah," he goes, "That was a crazy moment because it was. If you remember the old Forum visitors locker room?
Sure.
It was literally a closet.
Speaking of 10 by 12.
It was ridiculous,
Oh,
and so
wow.
there was no place to get Doc to hold the trophy like that. I could even back up and take a photo. So I just pulled him into the men's room. So he's just
That's
standing
funny.
there.
Is that your best urinal shot ever? would you say?
It's up there with the best of my men's room shots, yeah. But so 84, of course, the Lakers should have won it in 84. I was there for that. That was my first experience working in Boston Garden, which was insane.
Insane.
It was great though. And then 85, of course, was getting the Leprechaun off their back. It happened to be my first experience getting a Sports Illustrated cover. Was the 85 finals.
Wow.
Which, as a young photographer, I'm sure you guys in your professions, you set these benchmarks like this is what I want to do by this age or this time, in my career. And I had said by 3-4 years in, I would love to get published in Sports Illustrated, have a picture in it with my name on it. And then, lo and behold, became a cover. So that was pretty cool.
2 years in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
That's
cool.
incredible.
Yeah.
You also mentioned covered both Lakers and Dodgers in the '88
Right.
season.
Yeah. That was nuts because, of course, I was working with the Dodgers then. It's October, and the World Series is going on. I was also deeply involved working with the NBA, and this is when they first started doing the preseason McDonald's championships. We called it the McDonald's Open at that point. And they were bringing the Celtics to Madrid. It was a big thing, and I committed to doing it before I knew the Dodgers would go to the World Series. So I shot Game 1 of the World Series, and the next morning got on a plane to Madrid, and I couldn't shoot the rest of the World Series. But luckily, I got Kirk's home run.
That's the only game that mattered.
Yeah, and John Suhu, who I had hired
Sure.
To be sort of my assistant, he took over and did an incredible job, and of course, had been the Dodger team photographer ever since. I lasted till '95 when I just couldn't keep all the balls in the air at that point. The NBA became a year-round commitment at that point.
More so than ever.
Yeah.
Andy, personal preference, would you rather shoot a championship parade or like go to someone's house, maybe LeBron's home, and spend a few hours with him shooting individual pics around the house, like portrait pictures?
Good question.
Yeah, what comes to mind, Brez, is when it's so funny you mentioned that. When President Obama was inaugurated for the first term, and LeBron was playing for Cleveland then, and they happened to be in L.A. It just happened that they were going to play the Lakers the next day, January 21st. And the NBA caught wind of it, and he allowed myself, Michael Winnick, my cohort, who's a videographer, to go to his hotel. And his kids, he didn't have his little girl then. The two boys were little. I mean, they were toddlers. And they're climbing all over him in the hotel room, and he's watching the inauguration. And that's the kind of stuff. I love that behind the scenes, fly on the wall. I love parades, too. Don't get me wrong. Parades have a whole other kind of
it's a fun day in
dynamic. Yeah, but it's fun to, when it's kind of your team and it's a parade. But these behind the scenes things, everything I did with Kobe behind the scenes and
You say
Magic
any favorite
Shaq
moment
and those guys,
with Kobe behind the scenes?
so many. That final season when he allowed me to be, it's really just me and him and his trainer. And I covered him that entire final season. At Crypto, which was then Staples, the Kings let him use their locker room to do his private workout before games, and it would just be the three of us in there,
Yeah.
Or going to the house and his girls were little then, and him doing his workout with the girls there coloring next, on a table next to it to him, and I mean, so many things with the Showtime guys. I traveled a lot with those guys back in the day. When Shaq was back in Orlando in those early days, I used to go to Orlando a couple of times a month just to cover him and spend some harrowing days driving with that guy down I-95. And once he got to Miami, it was nuts. But that's a whole other podcast, I think.
He doesn't stay 5 below the speed limit, Shaq?
Oh my God.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's some stories to be told about hanging with the big guy.
Have you ever shot his DJ
I did. So there was
parties?
Yes.
I went and
Invite
saw
us next
Shaq
time.
this year at Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal.
He's the real deal.
Yeah.
Still, at his age, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But back in the day, he did this thing called the Shaq Rap and Jam Tour. Right?
Oh, gosh.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
And it must have been, he was still in Orlando then, so it's like third or fourth year. It was sponsored by Reebok. So he took some ballers who were also rappers on a tour of Asia, right? And I think there were 15, maybe 20 cities. So we'd go to a venue. It was kind of like a gym, like a college gym. And for the first 45 minutes, there'd be a game. So he'd have his guys play against some local team. Then there'd be a break. They'd reset the entire gym, and it became a disco. And he would DJ the rest of the night. And it was,
Only Shaq could pull that off.
I was going to say, are we surprised?
Yeah. It was fun, though.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I did have one quick question before I do want to get into the latest that you're working on. How many different sports have you shot?
Ooh, many. Because when I was trying to make my mark back in the day where we had to have a physical portfolio, like a printed portfolio of your work that you would send to photo editors or art directors, whoever you wanted, to try to hire you. I felt like I needed to shoot every sport imaginable so that I could show that I could do those sports, just in case something came up. My first real job was as team photographer for the LA Aztecs soccer team, which I'm sure you guys don't know anything about. It was the North American Soccer League.
Mm-hmm.
That was the league that Pele played in, the Cosmos were in. It was the first real
80s?
league. Yeah, this is the early 80s.
Yeah.
And I didn't know squat about soccer. I didn't grow up with soccer. I grew up with hockey. So I'm thinking, oh, it's kind of like hockey, but it's on grass.
Yeah.
You know? But they played in the Rose Bowl, which was literally lit by like car headlights, and they played at night. It was the worst conditions possible for a photographer. I didn't have any equipment, but for some reason, they hired me to be their team photographer for like $50 a game.
Wow.
Yeah. So I shot a lot of women's sports, like rhythmic gymnastics, volleyball, stuff I didn't even know about. Rugby. Who knows about rugby from Brooklyn? You know,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. And I'm glad I did because, you know, it helped me hone my skills as a photographer. But it, you know, it opened some doors down the road when, you know, ended up doing some commercial work with Jackie Joyner-Kersee, for example. And I covered a lot of track as a young photographer. So I kind of knew, you know, because I saw her perform. I saw her do her thing live, so I kind of knew what her shtick was.
Yeah.
You know, did a lot of football when we had 2 football teams in LA for a while. Did a lot of football back in the day. So
What's the hardest to shoot sport-wise?
Hockey is definitely the hardest.
Because the puck travels 100 miles an hour.
And you've been to the arena and you see we have these little holes that are these tiny holes that just the lens fits through. We don't have much, you know, maneuverability. And again, I'm shooting with strobes. I get one shot. You know, hockey is so bang bang in the blink of an eye, puck's down the other end. So hockey is really challenging, but it's so much fun for me. It's in my blood. I love going to hockey games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell everyone all these secrets about
So
photography.
cool.
These lights, the remotes, the camera at the bottom of the basket. I'm definitely looking
Andy,
for that
I'm
one.
going to have to show you that next time we're in the arena together. Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so you mentioned, obviously, as we said at the top of the show, season 6, of Legend of Sport has finished. You're going to take a little bit of a break before season 7 because you're working on a very special project.
Yeah, we finished season 6 with a really great, fun episode. It was Pau Gasol's Hall of Fame induction, and Pau was incredibly gracious, and it was wonderful. And then we were going to take a little hiatus, as we always do, between seasons and come back basically when the NBA season would start in October. But all the pieces started to come together for a project that I've been talking to Vanessa Bryan about for a while, and we're deep into it now. It's going to be a book of murals that she selects throughout the world. There's about 640 or 50 murals that we know about throughout the world. She's going to handpick a certain number of them, and we're going to go out and shoot them or have photographers photograph them because they're literally all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a beautiful book. It's going to come out at some point in 2025.
2025.
Yeah. And she.
Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
You know,
Yeah,
she,
really
as
cool.
I collaborated with Kobe on the Mamba Mentality book, and I'm collaborating with her. It's myself and my Legends of Sport company this time, not just me, myself. But so putting a lot of work into it and a lot of logistics to get ready.
Yep.
But first part of the year, it's you know, it's going to be gangbusters out there assigning photographers to go shoot these murals.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a great meeting. She's just so taken back, really, by the amount of creative love that's out there for Kobe and Gigi. It's just, it blows me away, you know, to see how all this expression of creative love and energy and grief and sorrow and everything else all sort of materialized simultaneously across the world, across the planet, after we lost them. You know, murals were going up, you know, in Singapore and in Estonia and in South LA and in Brooklyn and in Italy, everywhere else at the same time. I mean, nobody told people to do that. So it's really kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. And every one of these muralists has a story, you know, and we're going to tell that story in the book as well. And so it's really a labor of love more than anything to work on this project with her.
Yeah. I know it's going to be phenomenal, obviously,
thank
with
you.
your creative and being able to just bring all of that together. That's special.
Yeah.
So obviously something that we will keep our eye on and wait for you to put out the release on that.
For sure.
I just have one more thing, unless you have something else.
No, all you.
If there were someone or any of the youngsters, those that are trying to get into the business and what you know, I think listening to you from the very beginning, the one thing that has remained the same no matter what decade you're, mentorship, connection, relationships are important, right? But what's your advice to those hungry and
you know, it's
looking for the
interesting, Allie,
opportunity?
because I talk to a lot of young photographers I teach and help do some workshops once in a while. And it's daunting to get into my end of the business, as it is for you guys as well. You know, there's X number of jobs. There's 30 jobs in the NBA. You know,
Yep.
30 teams. That's it. In fact, there's 28 jobs because 2 of us do 2 teams. My friend Nat Butler does the 2 New York teams, and I do the 2 LA teams. And I think of all of us, 28, I think 23 of us have been with our teams 20 years or more.
Whoa.
So there isn't a lot of turnover. So the traditional sort of team photographer opportunities are not there as much as they used to be, but there's so many more opportunities for young photographers with social media and with working with teams, content groups, and even leagues. Every player now, 1 through 14 on the roster, they have their own social media group. You see it. You see LeBron has his guys following him around. AD, all the guys do. So, my suggestion to young photographers is get in with somebody, even in high school, and embed yourself with the football team, or find an athlete that's kind of a standout, and you can kind of ride their coattails through high school and into college. And in college, there's so many opportunities with the NIL now, and every athlete is looking to, kind of cash in on their brand. So they need photography, they need videography. I'm encouraging everybody, which nobody told me because actually it wasn't invented then, to learn how to do video. When I started, there was no video, it was film. So if I was going to start all over again, I absolutely would learn how to do video as well.
Yeah.
And learn how to edit. But, the last thing I'm going to say is that you could be the greatest talent in the world, and you guys know it from your business as well. But if people don't want to work with you because of your personality, then you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. So you have to learn how to work with people, how to develop and to nurture and to continue those relationships. I've been with the LA Kings now 40 plus years, with the NBA. Crypto.com Arena, I was the original director of photography. Now we're on 24 years now. I mean, those things just don't happen because, people just are bored or they don't want to hire anybody else. It's because you've earned that year after year after year, and you're producing the work, and it's all about loyalty and dependability and keeping that level of productivity up there. So I'm very proud of that. I have photographers who work under me, with me, next to me, who, I'll always be grateful for the incredible work that they do, because they're representing me out there, which is great.
Very well said. You are incredible, my friend. I know when I walk into Crypto.com Arena, when I see you on the road, when I used to travel every game, when you were there, I knew it was a big deal. It was a big game, obviously. So thank you for taking some time to spend with us, sharing your story.
Thank you guys. Happy
Thank you
holidays.
for the gift.
You too.
Happy holidays, of course.
How about Lakers Celtics on Christmas?
Oh, yes. Touche.
Right.
We wanted to talk about that. Yeah.
No, just really quick. I mean, we used to always circle that Lakers Celtic game, when the schedule came out in August. Usually that game was in February,
Yep.
But now to have it on Christmas Day, and we've had a few Lakers Celtics games on Christmas Day, but it's always a special matchup, special day. I'm excited about it. I can't wait.
And it's in LA. And if I'm not mistaken, since Bron has been a Laker, he hasn't had a home Christmas Day game yet.
Is that a fact?
I
Really?
don't believe he has.
Wow. I think I've worked every Christmas game since they started it. I mean, every Christmas Day.
We've had Dallas. We've had a couple Golden States.
Yeah, good point.
We had the COVID year.
Yep.
Yeah. We had,
Andy, do you ever get the Boston Laker rivalry? Do you ever punch the Celtic photographers? Ever get so heated?
Well, I was very
fact check
very, very good friends with Steve Lepovsky, the former Celtic photographer. I mean, Dick Rayfield, a longtime photographer, old timer. Never liked me, but that's okay. But Brian Babineau, who's been there a long time now, current photographer, his dad and I actually are contemporaries, and Brian is one of the greats out there. And
Wow.
So you guys
total
are good.
respect for him. Yeah,
Okay. No ill will there.
right.
That's good to hear. It can happen, Allie. It can't be a good relationship.
You will be at Crypto.com Arena for Christmas Day.
Oh, absolutely.
We will
Not
see
gonna
you.
miss
There's a
that
lot
one.
of games going on that day, but Andy will be
Not missing
at
that one.
Crypto.com Arena.
Absolutely.
Andy, as always, thank you. So much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you.